CI Knockoffs, La Gloria Cubana. Hey, Brandon, okay, and this is a cigar blog. So, I actually got a couple of, at least one request to check out more CI Knockoffs, or just CI Knockoffs in general. Now, I want to kind of preface this by saying you have to be kind of careful with something like a CI knockoff because it says it's comparable to La Gloria Cubana. I did one before that said it was comparable to Cohiba. The only problem is that this is kind of like saying, you know, this soft drink is comparable to a Coca-Cola. Well, which Coke? There's, you know, regular Coke, Diet Coke, Vanilla Coke, Cherry Coke, Coke with added meth. You know, I mean, which Coke are you referring to? Back, you know, a couple decades ago, maybe that wasn't a big thing, but now it's like there's so many different varieties. And that's kind of how it goes with these cigar brands is, you know, even La Gloria has more cigar lines than just La Gloria. So does this taste like something that should have come from La Gloria, or does it taste like their flagship line? I don't know. So you kind of have to take the claim of riffing on like Cohiba, Punch, La Gloria, whatever. You kind of have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. Anyway, construction-wise, this is actually not too bad. You know, I mean, it's got a good solid double cap. Unfortunately, there's a slight hole right about here. And you can see there's a couple of rather large veins going on here. Or more like stems, actually. Now, stems alone are actually not that big of a deal. They actually add to the cigar structure, and they smoke just fine. They can make it a little difficult to cut if they're a little too close to the cap, but otherwise, not that big of a deal. Oh, by the way, please excuse a little bit of wind noise. I'm actually just kind of glad to be out here in general because last weekend, when I was supposed to do a review, it was sub-freezing and covered in snow. So, I'm just glad to be out here in general. Alright, there we go. And I can tell you right now, holding this cigar in this particularly awkward position is not doing my shoulder any favors. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the size of this is a Panatella Lancero, kind of long and skinny size. I want to say Panatella. You get a good solid tortle length, but it's a narrower gauge, so you end up with less filler. Hopefully they'll end up being a more flavorful smoke. So right off the bat, a little sweet, kind of toasty, good clean tobacco, not bad. Yeah, there's definitely something interesting going on here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I got my light good. It looks pretty good so far, and I'm gonna smoke this down about maybe the first inch here and see if anything kind of wakes up. Alright, pretty much a decent inch in. So far, haven't really noticed too much else other than just the initial flavor is getting a little more punched up. There's a little subtle spice, almost like almost like a clovey spice, which is kind of weird. Interesting, but not quite what I was expecting. Overall, though, still sweet. Weird little bit of like a clove note. Clean tobacco, a little earthy. Pretty good so far. Okay, well, anyway, real quick, I just want to touch on something because I kind of noticed this after the last two comments that I got. I got those in the notifications, and for whatever reason, when I went to actually go reply to them, they kind of disappeared. So I'm thinking YouTube probably deleted those because I don't delete comments unless it's like spam or something stupid. But when it just comes to like people saying something, apparently YouTube monitors your comments, and if you say something that they think is a little naughty, be it referring to the greatest conflict in human history or making an off-color joke, apparently that's grounds for having your comment just arbitrarily deleted. But rest assured, I did see the comments, so I'm going to go ahead and respond to those here. One of them was asking where I did my reviews, wondering if I was in a bunker from World War II. If I was, that would actually be a lot more badass and quite a bit more interesting. Nope, sadly it's not. It's this. It's a tunnel. It goes under a road. And they like to paint over it because a lot of people like to put a lot of graffiti and weird stuff in here. So, now the weird thing is that they've been really diligent about painting over pretty much any new graffiti that pops up, which is kind of weird because they don't do shit about the freaking cobwebs and other crap. But if you'll notice here, this is supposed to be a flush. It's very much not. And I was going to want to show this off a little bit, but it's been painted over to the point where you really can't see it, especially on camera. But there's these holes that have been patched over somewhere in this area here. And that tells me that they went ahead and mud jacked this, because if you get a look at this from just the right angle, I don't know if this really shows up, but you can see nothing in here is really nicely flush. So it's this little spot over here where you've got this little runoff where when it rains, everything will kind of turn into gunk and pour out of this crack here, making this little puddle of spooge right here. So that basically tells me that the ground shifted and they had to mud jack the tunnel. So we can possibly fault an engineer maybe not quite thinking things through, or maybe they just did the best they could because they had to put an underpass, because that is a road up there. And there's like a good 4 or 5 lanes of traffic up there, so it's easier to just go underneath instead of trying to walk your dog across 4 lanes of traffic. But, like I said, it's nowhere near as interesting as an old bunker, because that actually has something a little bit more interesting to talk about. Now, the second comment I wanted to respond to was somebody that was okay with my review, but said something about my look. Wanted me to stay away from school playgrounds. For starters, I do not like kids, especially your kids or anyone else's. It's like if I had my own... Thank you, stupidly loud motorcycle. It's like if I had my own kids, that's fine, but if it's like your kids or anyone else's, stay away from me, please. I do not want your little kids putting their little greasy, grubby hands all over my nice, clean pants, because they're going to do that just to mess with you, I guarantee it. But in response to the first part of that, while I do appreciate the positive comment in general, no, I don't look like a child molester. Pampered Chew does. There's a rabbit hole for you. And when it comes to making videos about that, I'm just going to refer you to Dead Wing Dork. I am not even going to make that shit. I don't want to. Well, anyway, I'm going to make sure this is still lit and get back to the halfway point. I'd say it looks like a pretty decent halfway point, wouldn't you? So anyway, flavors of the overall mouth flavor have been pretty consistent. A little sweet, a little spicy, as in like kind of a holiday baking spice kind of thing. You know, a little bit of a clove note just kind of died down a little bit, and it's just kind of turned into just a general spice. Retro Hill is where things get interesting because it's got this subtle, sweet, kind of fruity note. It kind of reminds me of like a spiced apple. I mean, not specifically spiced apple, but you know, just that kind of general vibe. Like something's a little fruity, a little spicy, and overall interesting. I will say this though, the burn on this one, I don't know if I just screwed up my light. I did, and you know, have been having problems, or if there's just something a little wonky about this. But I've been having to do a number of touch-ups here and there, just because it's really wanting to burn a little lopsided. So I'm not too sure what's going on here. I could just be operator error though. So the thing that has me concerned is this hole right here. Fortunately, it doesn't seem to be particularly deep. You can see that clearly at all. And it's like right where your thumb goes, so it's not the biggest deal, but it is enough to be a little bit of a concern that this would actually go out the door with a freaking hole in the wrapper. Overall, it's kind of one of those cigars that the flavor is not really building to anything. It's just kind of there, getting a little more intense, but otherwise just kind of chill, mellow cigar. Pretty classic. How this relates to an actual Gloria, I don't know, because actually, when I think about it, I'm not entirely sure I've actually had a Gloria. I probably have at some point or another. Just, yeah, it's been a while. Glorias tend to be a little expensive. Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and smoke this down to the nub and see if anything wakes up from there. But that's just, I can't help but know, you know, once you notice that big, huge stem right there, it's kind of poking through, it's kind of hard to not notice that. Hey, I'll see you back at the nub here. Okay, that looks like a pretty good nub to me. Well, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. So far, flavors have been pretty consistent all the way through. Subtle sweet, a little bit of spice, clean tobacco. It's kind of a pleasant, just all-around kind of standard cigar flavor. Retrohale has been kind of interesting, having like an almost spiced fruit kind of note to it, which is interesting. Drink pairings, pretty much anything you could drink with any other just random generic cigar, you know, coffee, whiskey, whatever. I mean, drink it with a milkshake, I don't care. Anyway, I gotta point out, you know, there's really not a whole lot to write home about this. It's just a standard, just cigar flavor. As far as how this actually relates to a La Gloria, you're gonna have to, that's a conclusion you're gonna have to draw yourself. Never fails. The sun comes out and like 400,000 people just decide to go out and go for a run, walk the dog, ride the bike, show the kids that, hey, there's actually a world outside. I just got tickled in the back of the neck by a tree branch. Anyway, like I said, there's not a whole lot to write home about these. If I had to compare this to something like, say, a CI Fresh Roll for the price, you'd probably want to go with the Fresh Roll. I've had a couple of burn issues with this one. Keep in mind, though, this is like the one out of several of these I've had so far that's actually had burn issues that required like touch-ups, things like that. But at least on the CI Fresh Rolled, for the same price as 2 packs of these, you get like one big bundle of 40. And to my knowledge, you don't get holes in the wrapper. I mean, these are not bad, but at the same time, you know, there's, I'd probably go with the Fresh Rolled, truth be told. Well, anyway, that's pretty much it for this. If you like this review or any other cigar, if you like this review or any review, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know if I need to slow the hell down when I talk. I probably do. Beyond that, check out my Twitch stream. It's not going, yeah, Sunday through Friday night, midnight to 2 a.m. Bit of a night owl slot. I take Saturdays off. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you next time.